back for the last official day of BookMas. Tomorrow you will have a reading vlog where I'm wrapping up my year. And the last video of BookMas will be my part 1 of my January reading wrap-up. And then you guys will get some new content in the subsequent weeks, focusing on more plans for 2022. So I have been doing seasonal TBRs the past year, and I really like them. And now that I have a bullet journal, I'm going to really focus on them. So here are quite a few books that I hope to read this winter. Most of them are high fantasy. Most of them have snowy settings. Most of them are authors that I've just been dying to read. So let's get into it. The first book is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is the companion book set in the same world of Caraval, starring Jax, and I don't know if it's this book. I actually haven't even opened this edition up yet, which I probably should. But one of the editions I have seen has a beautiful, I think it's fairy loot, but this back is really, really pretty too. But it has a really pretty wintry cover, wintry outfit. I think it's fairy loot. But yeah, this stars How Far Would You Go for Happily Ever After? Eveline Fox and the Prince of Hearts is involved. This cover was Owl Crate edition. I'm really happy. And hopefully I will get around to reading it soon because it came out at the tail end of the year and I just didn't get around to reading it. The next book is literally called A Winter's Promise by Chriselle Davos. And this is about a girl who possesses 2 grips, a talent for seeing into an object's past and the ability to travel through mirrors. It has winter in the title. I do have to read a winter-themed novel for one of my reading challenges. This is also a translated work, which is also one that I need for my Black Widow board to wrap her up. And I heard people really do like the first 2 books in this series, so hopefully I will enjoy it as well. That is why I'm adding it to this video. And also The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell is a time-traveling magician novel set in New York City. But old New York is a dangerous world ruled by ruthless gangs, secret societies, and a world where the very air crackles with magic. Stop the magician, steal the book, save the future. I've had this book on my TBR for so many years. At this point, I think the whole series is out, and I just never get around to reading it. It is quite lengthy, and that maybe is why it took a little bit more of my reasonings to get to it. But hopefully I get to it. It is on my January TBR, so hopefully I'll get around to reading it. Another historical fiction book on my TBR is They Went Left by Monica Hesse. This is the same author that wrote The Girl in the Blue Coat, and it is 1945. The camps have been liberated, and she and her brother Albrecht were the only ones to be sent away from the gas chambers. Her parents, her grandmother, and Radiant Aunt May went left. Her last words to her plumber was, "I will find you again. We will find our alphabet." And I think she has to find a way to find her brother and kind of reconcile with her past. I know that it's a very, very sad and heartbreaking story, but I am in the mood for that, and I really hope to tackle this one soon. And then this I don't really think is wintry themed, but it is a Chinese-inspired retelling. Chinese mythology, and it follows 2 characters. One is a abandoned child. The other point of view, I think, is a prince, and they are sort of forced to work together to solve a problem that they have. And this cover is so pretty. It's another Owl Crate edition. I love Owl Crate editions. So yeah, those are the 5 books that are on my immediate TBR, they're on my January TBR. Now let's get into the other books that I'm also really excited to read this winter. The book I got very recently was For the Wolf by Hannah White, and again, the first daughter is for the throne, the second daughter is for the wolf, and this is about a society where the second daughter, born in centuries, is sacrificed to the wolf of the Winterwood. She's plagued by a dangerous power she can't control, but when the identity of the wolf is revealed, it is not what anyone expects. And I think that sounds really interesting. I know that this is definitely leads to become a romance, but again, I'm really wanting to read some more adult fantasy, and this book seems like it would be great. What a wintry setting. I'm here for it. Another book that I just picked up that I wasn't even really on this TBR, but when I read the summary, I was like, ooh, it's a wintry setting. It's a snowy kingdom. I had to add it. The Midnight Girls by Alicia Jaskia. And this is a snowy cloaked kingdom of is now is time for mischief and revelry. It's two characters that wind up meeting. It's an LGBTQ plus story. It's a sapphic romance. But there is a magical competition at the heart of it. And I literally just finishing a Gathering of Shadows with a magical competition. This cover is so pretty. I pre-ordered it mostly for the cover. And I am really excited and hope that I get around to reading it. Another really old book is the Frostfire. And this is, again, this is a much older series, but it does have to do with a snowy kingdom. And it's by Amanda Hocking. And this, I would love to read this on like a snow day. We had a snow day this past day, but we didn't actually get a snow day. So when we do have big snowstorms, I tend to read snowy reads. And this I will put on that list as well. Another book on my TBR is not really like a wintry theme, but it does have to do with, a high fantasy story. So she is a survivor. She works at a healer at a notorious death prison. But one day when the infamous rebel queen arrives at prison, don't let her die, we are coming. And she has to sort of protect this queen, and the queen is sentenced to a trial by fire. She volunteers to take her place, and drama ensues. But it sounds really interesting. I didn't really read enough of the summary, but I was intrigued enough for it. Don't let her die, we are coming. So that's the tagline, and I'm really excited for this one as well. And then the last book in this little section is The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. I have my whole goal is to read more V.E. Schwab this year, and this is one that I think will be perfect. I did start reading this during the spooky season, and then I just put it down. So another book I DNF'd, and hopefully I will pick it up and really like it. So that is another book in this little section, and now let's get to the last section of books. But a book that I just recently picked up was Kingdom of the Curse by Carrie Maniscalco. Again, this book I think will be perfect. It's a high fantasy story with witchcraft, and it is set in a new setting. I'll say that. I don't want to spoil too much because if you haven't read Kingdom of the Wicked, you might be upset if I spoil you. But this is one that I'm really excited for. Another book that does have sort of a wintry setting is Gilded by Marissa Meyer, which is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, which I've heard really good things about so far. So hopefully when I get around to reading this, I will be able to report back. Another book, this said it was going to come out in November, but I'm like, I'll have to like look and double check, but I'm pretty sure that this book hasn't come out yet. I think this book is one of the one that got pushed, but I'll read you guys the summary. For fans of Serpent and Dove and House of Salt and Sorrow comes a dark romantic fairy tale about an untrained witch who must discover her own power to break a terrible curse and save her home. So I think this book hasn't come out yet, but I did get an advanced reader copy. It says it's supposed to come out in November, but I'm pretty sure it didn't actually come out. But again, I have really liked all of Laura A. Waymout's other works, and this does have a witchcraft component. This cover is really, really pretty, and hopefully I enjoy it when I get around to reading it. Ray Barra has been on a couple of TBRs, but again, I've heard really good things about the story and would love to add it to my story. Teresia has always longed from the warmth of a family, but her mom is known as the lady. She's like the leader. But she has to go to the capital complete with other children to become a part of the Council 11, and she realizes that this is not what she was expecting. So this is what I'm really excited for as well. Another total wintry themed book that I've had and I've been saving is The Winter Duke by Clara Elizabeth Bartlett, an enchanted tale of a magical curse and the only girl who survives it. Part Sleeping Beauty, part Anastasia with a thrilling political mystery. The Winter Duke is a spellbinding story about choosing what's right in the face of danger. That sounds really good. So again, I haven't heard a lot about this book, but again, it's winter. I was looking for books to add on a winter TBR, and this one got added. That's like a former ALA pick as well. And then another Owl Crate book that made this pick was Sisters of the Snake by Serena and Sasha Ningu, and this is about two characters that wind up switching places, and they're identical twins. One is a thief and one is the snake princess, and I think that that just sounds great. So I'm really excited for this one again as well. This cover is really, really pretty. It was an Owl Crate edition, and I'm really excited for it. Now let's get to what I think will probably be the last section of this winter TBR. Books is When the Night Breaks by Janelle Angelis. This again is a sequel. It's a sequel to Where Dreams Descend. The competition over, but the show has just begun. Again, another Owl Crate edition. I'm really a big fan of Owl Crate. You know, I love their covers. Another book that I have added to this TBR is The Alchemist, the immortal Nicholas Flamel. I talked about this in another video. An ancient book is lost. The modern world could be ripped apart at the seams. Oh, this is a series I want to start in 2021, and it basically follows the Nicholas Flamel myth. But two middle grade students are about to find their way in the biggest mystery of all time, and I'm really excited for this one. Another middle grade story that's high on this list is Hollowpox, The Hunt of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I really did like the first book. I struggled a little bit with the second book, but I'm excited for the third one. Again, another Owl Crate Junior pick that I picked up. This one is just a series that I've had on here forever because I read Rihanna Thomas's mystery that she wrote a while ago, but this is A Wicked Thing, and this is a Princess Aurora retelling. A Wicked Thing is a surprising spellbinding remedy of what happened after Happily Ever After. And I do have the sequel as well. So if I like this, I will probably read the sequel as well. The Lovely War by Julie Berry is a god. Does love conquer war? The answer is it never in doubt. In the perilous days of World War I and II, the gods held the fates and the hearts of 4 mortals in their hands. I have never read a Julie Berry book, but this one was like Haley and Bookland's favorite book of 2020, I think, and I have been dying to read it. I bought it, and then I just never get around to reading it, but there is quite a few of historical fiction books on this TBR, and this is one of them. Mom was talking very, very loudly and didn't want you to hear it. But the next book is Bloodlike Magic by LaSalle Sambury. This cover is stunning. This is another witchcraft themed novel. And what happens in this society is that you have to kill your first love. But the only problem is Voya has never met her first love, so she needs to find him, fall in love with him, and then kill him. I think that might be a little bit dramatic. This cover is stunning. So pretty. I remember when I bought this book because it was like the week I went back to work, and I was like, oh, this will be one of the many stops at that Barnes & Noble, and then I went there so infrequently, but I did buy this book at that store. And then the last book is another high adult fantasy book, and it is by the Queen, Sarah J. Maas, Crescent City. This is a behemoth. I will say that it is signed. But this is, another, I'm sure, romance-heavy paranormal fantasy story, and I've heard some good things about it. I do want to read it. I did buy it, so I have added it to this TBR. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what are some wintry books that are on your winter TBR, and I will talk to you for my last 2 days of BookMas. Bye, friends.